Greetings, friends. Lyle Wiley here, a high school English teacher and speech and debate coach in Thermopolis, Wyoming, and your host of the One Clap Speech and Debate podcast. Welcome back to Season 4 of One Clap. We have another important episode in our Seeking Equality in Speech and Debate series for you today. This episode will feature part 2 of an open discussion. This open discussion is entitled Gender Bias and Seeking Equality in Speech and Debate. The panel featured 5 exceptional and courageous female members of our Wyoming speech and debate community who share their personal experiences, thoughts, and ideas with us all. This includes Zoey Pickett, a recent graduate from Natrona County High School, Carolyn Benn-Thornton, a recent graduate from Riverton High School, Faith Duncan, a rising senior for Green River High School, and 2 rising seniors from Cheyenne East High School, Dani Schulz and Camila Rivera. My role in these discussions is primarily organizational. I ask questions, listen intently, and move forward when the panel members are done speaking, but I try not to engage directly in the conversations with the panel, and I'm doing my best to just listen and learn. Here, we're trying to give women in our speech and debate community an opportunity to share their experiences, concerns, and ideas. This important discussion lasted nearly 2 hours, so today's episode will be part 2 of our panel discussion. If you missed part 1, don't worry. Be sure to check it out. I'll link to it in the show notes. But for now, let's jump right in and listen intently to the female voices in our community. Faith, this one's directed at you. We've touched on it a little bit, but to what extent do you think that clothing should play a role in judges' decisions? And then how much do you think it actually does play a role in the average round? Difficult question.
All right, so my opinion on this one is it's slightly controversial, but I think that clothing definitely should play a role in the judges' decisions, just because the point of speech and debate is to educate people on being successful in the professional community. And clothing, while we love to express ourselves, I feel like the speech and debate community is not necessarily the place to wear these inappropriate clothing. And it should play a bit of a role in judges' decisions, but not as much as it does right now, because it definitely plays way too much of a role in judges' decisions right now, especially just regarding, the different clothing styles between men versus women. Women's suits, they're so hard to, oh my gosh, they're so hard to find. And I don't know, you guys were all probably shopping for nationals too, and it was so hard to find ones that fit me. And I remember I took my suit to a tailor and told her to take in the waist, and she literally took in the chest and nothing else. And I was like, it just shows that the feminine figure and just feminine clothing is not appreciated as much as it should be in speech, and it's not recognized as seriously. So I think it plays way too much of a role now, but it should still play a slight role.
I totally agree with Faith. I think that it's important to be professional and look professional. If you see the people on the national final stage, they all look put together and nice and professional. I do think there's a line to where it gets sexist. My example, I think it's a little bit inappropriate. As a judge, if I'm judging, I will never comment on appearance just because it makes me feel really uncomfortable, and to read too as a competitor. So I think it does play a role, but I think women especially just get the worst of it just in general, because women's appearance just in society is so picked on, and it is really hard to find suits for women. I'm glad you agree with me. It's so hard. And for men, there's so many.
I think I just want to add a personal story that I had recently happen with clothing, and it was at nationals. So I also went shopping for nationals and tried to find suits. Obviously didn't come across any really nice ones. So I just, went to my own style. I don't like wearing skirts in speech and debate. I don't know why, but I feel more powerful and more confident in a pantsuit or etc. But I remember it was my very first break at nationals. It was an expository, and all of a sudden, it stopped being so much about my speech and what I was going to be presenting, and it all became, surrounded by what I was going to wear the next day. And I don't think I've ever felt more uncomfortable in, the community of speech and debate. And usually I'm always very comfortable around the people I'm at and what's happening. But I think especially, it's unfortunately so true that for women specifically, judges do tend to judge our character, sometimes even our performances, based on how we wear, what we wear, how well put together we look, like Dani and Faith were saying. And I don't think it should play the entire role, but obviously look the best you can, and I think that's all that matters. But I think the way it's become too much of a focus, because you see the people on the national stage and they all have a certain look to them, and it's quite obvious that they especially with women, they have a certain look. And I think it's something that we should steer away from, because I feel like to the point where you try to strive for a look that might not be yours, it starts to get more uncomfortable, and then you don't feel as confident doing your piece or debate or whatever it is that you're doing on that national stage. If you have the opportunity to get that far, or even just competing at the national tournament. So I really wanted to agree with what they were saying, because I'd never experienced it before nationals, and then when I did, I just felt horrible seeing, because I had no control over that. I packed the clothes that I packed, and I was planning on wearing all of those outfits, and then seeing that it was unacceptable for me to wear them because it wasn't the look that national judges were looking for, it just felt really invalidating, because it's why are you not looking at what I'm presenting to you and what I want to share, rather than what I'm wearing or how I appear to you. So I just wanted to add that, because my experience was quite recent.
Yeah, and adding on to what Camila said, there definitely is a look for women that are doing successfully, and especially women that are on the national stage. A lot of them just look a lot more masculine as women and stuff. And adding on to my own personal experience too, just being taken seriously, having to change your appearance in order to do that. I'm not sure if you guys have seen me at tournaments, but I always wear glasses, and they're not even real. I used to wear blue light glasses, and I noticed that my scores started to go up, so I started wearing glasses more, and just the fact that something as trivial as glasses that I don't even need improved my rankings so much. Or wearing a suit that hides my chest more and stuff, and wearing a suit that makes me look thinner, it just affects your appearance and your results so much.
I'm glad you talked about glasses, because I've heard my coaches, well, not specifically my coaches, but just people talk about how I remember someone realized I had glasses, and I was doing oratory at the time, and they were like, oh, you should wear those, it makes you look smarter. And I just think that's kind of uncomfortable. I don't know. I just feel like it's not valid, it's not real. And I think it especially happens with women, just because women, like we've said a billion times, people don't take seriously. And I think the glasses example is really valid, and it happens to a lot of people.
That's just so true. At nationals, it happened too with one of our own teammates, Dani. She was in world schools, and she said, oh, these glasses, I don't need them, but I'm going to wear them because it adds credibility to myself. But the way that just something so minimal as glasses can increase a woman's credibility during round it's just so nonsensical, I guess. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand how my blindness or my lack of seeing can actually help you to my credibility in any way. I truly need my glasses, but I don't understand how me not seeing adds credibility to anything. It's kind of ridiculous when you really think about it.
My personal experience with professionalism in debate, I find that I feel more empowered when I dress in a more feminine way. I dress way more feminine at tournaments than I do actually in real life. I love to wear a lot of makeup and have my hair down and curled and wear, I'll always wear heels. I never bought a pair of flats for tournaments and wear skirts and stuff. And I think that that's kind of a different take than a lot of other women in speech and debate have, just because I think it's really powerful to embrace your femininity and still be good at what you do. Because often, this whole conversation, we've just been talking about trying to fit within debate when masculinity is rewarded. But I think it's so, empowering to be feminine and be feminine presenting and still do well and still have, a reputation and stuff. So I spend a lot of time on the way that I look at tournaments, like I said, I curl my hair, I do my makeup, I make sure that my earrings match my blazer or whatever, because I think that I find my power in looking more feminine at tournaments.
I totally agree, Zoe. I think that experience is so valid, and I think it might be a little bit different in interp than debate. I feel like in general, interp females dress a little bit more feminine. I remember talking to people from my team during nationals and them thinking that they had to wear a skirt to have the nationals look as an interpreter, which I think it's really harmful. I don't think you have to wear a skirt to do that. But I totally agree with your experience. During tournaments, I usually wear skirts, and I do my hair all nice and do makeup, and I don't ever wear skirts in real life. So I feel like there's an expectation of what you have to wear, especially when you get more to the national level. Because if you see those females on the final stage, they all have their hair all nice and stuff, and wearing makeup. So I think it might be a little bit different, at least in my experience, other than debate, just because there's a lot of expectations to look more feminine in interp, especially.
Yeah, I completely agree with what all of you are saying. And I can take that firsthand as well, because I remember getting ready for my semifinal round and taking into account what the expectation for what a finalist in nationals looked like. I woke up at 4 a.m. when I didn't have to. And I spent so long on my hair, drowning myself in hairspray and and just making sure that everything was so perfect, when that really should not be the reality. And it's weird to see that duality of, you have to have a more masculine voice, but in the end, a more feminine appearance is awarded. And I don't know, it should be in our power to dress however we would like and however makes us feel powerful. Because Zoe, you were talking about how femininity makes you feel more powerful. And in my case, what Camila was saying, it's just wearing pantsuits makes me feel way more powerful. And there shouldn't be any expectation that I have to dress more feminine than what I'm doing.
Just on the humor side, there were I think 2 pieces in nationals finals that were specifically on beauty pageants for humorous, and then one on beauty pageants in duo. How did that feel as interpers, I guess?
I feel I don't know, you probably would agree with me, Carly. It's something that you see a lot. You see a lot of beauty pageant pieces just in general, especially, always done by women. So it's really interesting to see that and see it go so far, and just see that judges really reward that. It makes you think about things, especially in humor, when it's women doing humor and they have to talk about beauty and appearance. It's weird.
I completely agree with you, Dani. It's weird to see that standard of women beauty and just how that gets so far, and just why those topics need to be heard, and which very much do. And it's a sad reality that those beauty pageants, the woman who won first, her performance was so beautiful, but it's just unfortunate that has to be brought to the surface in order for us to be heard.
I think it just sucks a little bit that women are not taken seriously unless they're talking about beauty and appearance. I just feel that seems very weird, especially at the national level when we're supposed to be inclusive and stuff. It kind of sucks, just thinking about it, because I really haven't thought about it that deeply, but it's a reflection of society and how women are supposed to talk about appearance and makeup and blah, 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 and how they're taken very, people like hearing that. So yeah, it's just interesting to think about.
What I was going to say was, I obviously don't do humor, but I genuinely admire anybody who does interp, because what you guys do is just phenomenal. But I think what's insane, we just pointed out that out of those 6 humors, 2 of them were about beauty and pageants and whatnot. But I think it's kind of crazy to think that they made it in humor, because I watched all the other interp ones, but I didn't really see a serious piece on it. And the way that they only made it far is maybe because they were making fun of it, or maybe not. Obviously, it's a serious topic, but the way they were kind of taking more of a comical way, the fact that when we do talk about that, and the stereotypical topic of whatnot that we want to be seen talking about it, is that it only take it seriously when it's comical. It's oh, it's a problem, but ha ha ha. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just think it's kind of crazy that it made it in just that event, because there was 100% topics on that in other events, maybe drama, poi, etc. But the fact that it only made it in humor, I just think why do we have to make fun of the situation for us to actually be heard? Because I think it goes back to her whole point of advocacy, where sometimes it's okay to laugh about what happens to us or our own suffering, but I don't think it should only be taken seriously when we want to make light of it. It's just sometimes it's the only way we can actually address it at the time or whatnot. But I think those topics should make it further in other events too, where it's very serious, the main point of the topic, and not just when we're making light fun of it or whatnot.
Just kind of adding on to that, I kind of have an experience similar to that. Well, sort of. It's just my experience as a woman in humor. The humor I did this year was it was funny, but it was a little bit more serious and about social issues in the world. And a lot of times I felt I wasn't taken seriously because I was being serious. And that might just be a problem with the entire event as a whole. But I feel as a woman, just in general, you're not taken seriously, especially when you're trying to do that, when there's men in the event being super loud and like running around and doing crazy stuff. You're just not, especially in my experience, especially in Wyoming, where you have more conservative judges who think very specific things about how events should be run and what you should talk about. I just feel like I wasn't taken seriously, and pieces that didn't really have like have the importance behind them would do like way better than me. Not saying that they shouldn't, but just in general, there's a trend of that in Wyoming. So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Camila's point like just completely drives in like this discussion how like in humor and drama, like more emotional events where it's like less about like there's definitely a lot of discussion about political issues in it, but it's less prominent and more just on the emotions and stuff. Like there's an expectation to dress more feminine, but meanwhile, like in events like Extemp and Debate, how there's just this expectation to dress masculine, and how, you know, masculine competitors do significantly better. I think that just shows societies like how seriously we really do take these issues that like women are bringing up.
All right, I'm going to direct a question to Carly first, and then I'll have one for Dani. But I feel like Carly's really specifically in a situation where she can answer this question really well. So girls have made the final stage before at nationals. Does that just mean that everything's fair?
Well, I mean, absolutely not. Because, I mean, speaking from my personal stories, it was so inspiring this year to see so many women in my humor prelims and my quarters and my semis and octos, because I remember like sitting next to a woman from Apple Valley, and she was talking about how just encouraging it is to see a room full of women. And we were all like so happy about that, because what Dani was talking about earlier, it's like humor is a very male dominated event because women aren't seen as funny in our society, which is so unfortunate. And it really encouraged me, because I thought that we were getting past that. We were doing really good. And then we got to semis and it was still female dominated. And then we got to finals and then it was half and half. And I guess just like the per capita didn't really add up in that sense, because there were so many women in semis that just didn't advance. And I mean, my humor this year was Space Girl, and there was a male doing Space Girl, and he advanced to finals. And honestly, it wasn't disheartening, because, I mean, it was disheartening, but the fact that wasn't disheartening was because he was very talented, and he took a very good interpretation of the piece. But it was disheartening in the fact that we had the same piece, but the male advanced and I didn't. And I mean, I'm not bitter about it, of course, but it's just, it makes me wonder, like, if the judges took into account the fact that he was a male, and if that it benefited him in any sense. So, yeah, to answer your question, I honestly don't think it's fair for females, because you see these female-dominated events, but males advancing more often than females do.
I think especially with Interp, that's really true, just because, especially with events like that I do, like drama and poetry, like they're pretty female dominated, but when you get to the final rounds, men break. It's not just, usually the round is not just full of women. I feel like that's such a valid point, because just because something is female dominated doesn't mean they're breaking, and doesn't mean there isn't internalized bias just in general in the activity. And kind of going away from that point, I totally, just like the Extemp final round, the U.S. Extemp final round, like it just really shows, like, just because one woman got up there doesn't mean that there isn't sexism and misogyny, just because there wasn't many women that broke at all. And I'm sure there was women that deserved to be there.
I think kind of what you were saying of being in a female-dominated event, yet seeing a lot of males break, I think that just kind of shows like the inherent sexism that we experience in NSDA as a whole, like tournament-wise or competing-wise. Like the fact that technically we have the advantage by just pure numbers, but the fact that we still don't dominate that final stage or that semifinal stage, it's just kind of insane to like even realize. Like that just shows, like, just proof that it's an inherent problem within the system itself, or just the biases that we carry that many times may not have a malicious intent behind them, but just happen. And I think what you guys, both of you were talking about, Carly and Dani, that just, it shows that. And I think that's just proof right there, handed to us on a platter, that it's it happens, and it's like just part of our system, and something does need to be done about it, because even when we have this set advantage, we still don't actually benefit from it.
I want to address this one to Dani, and this is a really important question. Hopefully everyone can chime in, but how can male coaches and competitors best be an ally to women in speech and debate?
I think there's a lot of really important elements to it. I think one super important one that we've touched on a lot is listening to the female experience and not suppressing her voice. It's so important to be heard, just in general in life, like as a human, just getting validation of your feelings in each circumstance. I feel like that's super important. Another thing is education about internalized biases you could have. That's obviously super important, especially because a lot of us don't even realize that we have biases. Even as women, like women have biases against other women. It's just internalized misogyny that is in our society, just super ingrained in us as children. Another one is really encouraging and giving women extra support in debate. Because I know a lot of teams, like just from like the Wyoming and like Wyoming, South Dakota plus circuit, just that teams, just debate teams are all men, and it just sucks. Just encouraging women to come in and do what they want to do and be strong and advocate for yourself is just so important. And women need that extra push and that extra just extra support in general on the team, just because we experience so much misogyny just in rounds, and just having that support and having someone to listen and try to educate your team and the people around you is just so important. And I think my coaches do a really awesome job at it for the most part. But I think every coach needs to have that in their mind, especially coaching women, just in general.
And yes, to piggyback off of what Dani was saying, it's just like the first step into becoming better is becoming aware of the internalized biases that you might have. And it's a really hard line to see, because it's so difficult to understand what's internalized and what's subconscious, because our conscious mind isn't as powerful as we think it is. But as long as we're aware, then we have the capacity to become better. And also, there's another point of not overcompensating. So I don't want to see a male try to like over listen or like over talk to me about how like I need to be heard, or I need all of these requirements to, I don't know, like have equality. And like I see that a lot too. It's just like that overprotection or over talking or overcompensating for things that I already have.
And like another way I think that like male competitors can just help, be an ally towards women and like female competitors in their events is just, especially the way that they like view and portray women is just, I feel like in speech where like women are sexualized significantly more than our male competitors. And especially looking at the interp events, like how many guys have we seen twerk in a piece, or like pieces where when a guy's trying to portray a woman, he portrays her in an overly sexual manner, or just using a lot of jokes with the content about the female anatomy and just sexualize women. I feel like it's a significant problem in the speech world, and just especially how our male competitors treat us. It feels like less than human and objectified. So I feel like male competitors should be like an ally to women by, checking these biases and just thinking, would I treat a man like this or portray a man like this? Like women have other, and just like looking towards other personality traits or traits that women have other than just their bodies or just sexualized versions of themselves.
I think what all you guys have said is super important. Of like that first step is kind of like self-realization of realize what's wrong with you first. But I think it's not only important to do that, but I think it's also important to call out other people when you see it. Because I don't think it's only like males that need to be allies. It's females as well. Like Faith mentioned earlier, with females who are successful in the speech and debate community, there tends to be a lot of jealousy. And I have heard many a time, unfortunately, when I see someone break, or, we're all hovering around postings and, everybody's like strategizing people who broke how I would win, and it's against a female competitor, it's typically, oh, they're not that good, don't worry about it. Here, they always try to downplay that success. And I think, especially when we hear that, It's usually the way I've always heard it from. It typically comes from males when you hear that. And I think a really important way to do that is if you're aware that this is happening, call them out on it. I think that's probably the most important way. And you think as a debater, I love confrontation, and I know it's difficult, but like I don't really like creating unnecessary tension. But I think it's really important for us to have these tough conversations, because part of the reason we don't really speak about it is because there's a certain stigma of like, oh, I don't really want to create tension, drama, etc. But if someone needs to start, and what better people to start than us, like in the community where our main thing to do is to advocate for what we believe in. And so I think the way like the males and females alike can be a better ally to us during speech and debate season, or even not during the season, just in general, it's just besides that self-realization, the second step is to try to fix that. Maybe if you have friends that say those things that you realize are wrong, like call them out on it. Tell them that's not right. Obviously, like not in a rude way, but be like, hey, here's what I learned. You should learn it too. Because I think that's also a second part of how they can be better allies.
Yeah, and Camila, I completely agree with that understanding and then taking action, because I have a personal experience. It involves Dani because I remember my sophomore year when I saw you performing your freshman year, my immediate response was that I felt threatened, and I immediately felt jealous of everything that you were doing. And it took me some understanding of myself to realize that you're not a threat at all. You're a friend and you're a competitor, and we both have the same capacity to do whatever we want to do. And it's so encouraging and so enlightening and so inspiring when you have that realization. So, I mean, to any men listening right now, if you have that understanding and you pursue it and you take action in that, it can be so inspiring for yourself and you don't feel as threatened.
No, I totally understand what you're saying. I feel like just in general in like my team and just in the speech and debate community in general, it's really easy to create rivalries between people, especially two women, just because it really happens and it's perpetuated by people around you. And I just think just learning from people and watching people and not having that like the defense mechanism against people and not having the super jealousy, it just is really important. And I think rivalries are super easy to build up, especially with people around you, just in general, in my experience, and just watching them. And I think in society, females are totally are taught to be super tough and just to almost be mean to other females. I think really educating against that is really important.
Just another thing that I feel like women can also be allies to themselves through is just talking to other women that are inspiring us. Because I remember my 8th grade year, I watched Saga McAllister. You probably remember her, or at least part of her, but she was an excellent humorist from East, and I watched her piece, and that was the whole reason I did humor, or basically speech in the first place, because I just saw it and it was amazing. And it was my first tournament. I saw her out in the hallway. She didn't even know who I was, and I told her that she was the one that inspired me to do this and stuff, and inspired me to do humor, and just seeing the smile on her faces and seeing that smile when you encourage other women and hype them up. It shows that we can really work as women to empower each other and get over this misogyny that's internalized in our society. So I feel like female competitors should encourage each other more and should compliment each other more.
This question is going to be for Zoey. If you knew for a fact that speech and debate was irreversibly sexist, would you still participate and still encourage others to participate? Why or why not?
Absolutely. I would still participate. I don't really do it because I think it's a, community for equality. I do it because I love it. And, at the end of the day, even if I have a horrible experience in a round, or just a round that I'm annoyed because I feel like I wasn't treated the way I was supposed to be treated, I still probably had, the rest of the rounds that tournament I loved, right? And I think that, not only do I just have a passion for debate, but also seeing other people do it, and being able to see all of you do your events and see what your get out is just really empowering and really inspiring by itself. And I think it's a really good place to find your voice and be able to advocate for yourself. I think that now I can call out things that I see, like inequalities, better. I think that it's really like shaped the person that I am. And even though I had to face adversity on the way, I overall have loved debate and I've loved my experience in it. And I wouldn't exchange that for the world. I think that I would encourage anyone else to do it because it is, the climate around debate is, you know, it's a little more like aggressive, and, you know, people in debate kind of have like, in speech and debate kind of have like a reputation, you know, for being a certain way. But I think that despite that, it's one of the best things you can do for yourself. And you see people who are become like famous or are at the top of their field who did speech and debate in high school, and they say that everything that they've done has been attributed to high school debate. Like Ketanji Brown Jackson, before she was sworn in, she said that doing Congress in high school was the only reason that she got there. And so even though there's sexism, I think it's still totally worth it, and I would recommend it to anyone.
I totally agree. I think the only way to combat sexism and misogyny is to keep showing up, keep representing yourself, even if it's super sexist. I think just fighting against that is so important, just in general in our society, learning to fight back, learning to step up when something's wrong. And speech has totally taught me how to do that. I'm sure you all can agree, just recognizing things in our society, like Zoe said, like inequalities, and learning about them. And education is so important. And just especially like with women, having a space where you can express your opinions and use your voice and learn how to use your voice is just like irreplaceable. Just having that experience, especially like an interp and platform where someone's forced to listen to you for 10 minutes straight, is just so empowering. And it teaches you how to speak with confidence and how to learn and listen to people. And I just think it's one of the best things you can do for yourself, for your confidence, for your just knowledge about the world, and also to stand up for what's right and what you want to talk about.
Yeah, I think we all agree that if we knew for a fact that speech and debate was irreversibly sexist, I'm pretty sure every single one of us would still do it. And for me, the main reason would be that if I knew that, and if it like believed that, I think that's even more reason for us to do speech and debate. It's more important for us to show up and show them that, you know, we this is who we are, and like we're actually talented individuals that should be valued the same way that males are. And it's even more important for them to hear our message and to hear this talk right now that we're all having. If that were true, I think that's even more reason for us to participate. And for me, it just gives me more power and more want to participate in speech and debate. Because if that were true, like Zoe was saying, I just love doing speech and debate, debating, doing extemp. Like, I just have a deep passion and love for it. That truly, I don't care if I wasn't successful in it. If I just loved and thoroughly enjoyed what I did, I would still do it. And I think that's even more important. So I think that just shows, like, even through all this adversity, like Zoe was saying, it's still worth it. It's such a valuable trade-off. Especially for what we're going to experience in the world, this point of where we feel a little bit let down, disappointed, or maybe, I don't really know how to say it, but feel discriminated against because of who we are and how we present ourselves, it's just valuable for what we've learned throughout this entire activity. Because I know maybe if you're hearing this, you're probably thinking, is it really worth it for me to do speech and debate if this is what I'm going to go through? 100%, because this is just a small step in the road, and you're 100% going to experience this out in the real world when you're out of high school, in college, out of college, in like a business place. And what you learn here is a better way for you to defend yourself, communicate with others what you're feeling, and just being to present yourself in a more professional manner. So I just think it's 100% worth it to do it, and even more reason to do it.
I 100% agree with you. And not only that, is speech and debate such a unique platform to get your voice heard, because I feel like we're surrounded by social media all the time, and we constantly have these like social justices shown to us to a point where a lot of us become desensitized to what's on our social media and what's spread across news. But when we step into the speech and debate world, it's like people are performing what's important in our world. Like, it's so inspiring to just talk about climate change, but in a way that's interpretation. And it's so cool to have like people laugh and cry with you and debate, especially too, because it's just like you get to see all sides of the matter. And that's what's important as well, because a lot of us are biased and a lot of us have social media or like news that favor one side. So it's really good to see both sides presented to us. And it's so valuable and beneficial to our community as well.
Yeah, and I agree with basically what everyone's said so far. And just like, especially with what Camila said about how like the more and more we get exposed to it, the more sexism there's like more and more reason to get ourselves more involved in it and like have these important conversations, like Carly said. And just, yeah, like I feel like the more and more sexism that I get exposed to in speech and debate, it just inspires me to keep doing it and keep fighting back against it. And just, like, women absolutely should be doing this significantly more because it'll keep us fighting.
I totally agree. I think just for everyone listening, the reason like we're talking about this and critiquing speech and debate as a whole is because we love it so much and we want it to be better for other generations. And it's so important to us. Not because we hate it, not because this sexism and misogyny will stop us from doing it, just because we want it to be better. And if you love something so much, you will try to make it better, just in general.
So this is a question that we'll start with Camila, and we'll build on our last question a little bit. Is there anything girls gain from speech and debate that boys don't?
Oh, that's a hard question to answer. Well, I think what we experience in all the trials that we go through during speech and debate, it's kind of preparing us and maybe making our skin a little bit thicker to when we enter the real world where maybe we're not as protected or shielded from such things. And the reason I'm saying this is I don't think boys get this as much because it's more, maybe a little bit more pampered for them, I want to say. It's more cushioned. So I think something that we might gain is that reality and that tolerance for sure towards it. We learn better ways to fight against it, how to actually deal with it, and maybe the way we react to certain things that I don't think men in speech and debate gain as much preparation in that sense, because the way we're prepared and the fact that we've experienced it so many times, it just helps us in the future when we're inevitably and unfortunately going to face it again.
And honestly, just adding on to what Camila said, I think girls definitely do gain a lot more from speech than boys do. And just talking about that thicker skin, because I'm in a unique position. My best friend and I, we're very similar, and we both do basically the exact same events. We run the same cases in debate, but he's a boy and I'm a girl. And I feel like, as we do it and just like comparing how we've changed since doing speech, I feel like it's made me so much more passionate about issues and passionate about speech. And it's definitely made me a lot more aggressive person and a lot more willing to stand up for myself. And I haven't seen the same changes in him. So I think it definitely does make, it makes more girl bossy girls.
I totally agree so much. And I kind of touched on this before. I think that why men don't gain as much is because men from a young age are listened to. Their opinion, they can express their opinion clearly, and women don't get that because we're expected to be quiet and listen, and and I think speech gives a perfect opportunity for women to express their opinions and also express like their experiences that they go through, like sexism and misogyny. Like the ploy I did, my sophomore year was about women in politics and how just the experience of women in politics and why there's not as many women who are in our government, and just expressing that that experience of a woman is so powerful, and just amplifying those voices through speech and debate is awesome, especially because women don't always get that in the real world, and we need to be taught how to push ourselves into these conversations and how to advocate for ourselves and others. So I think women totally get, I think men still get really good things out of speech, but women get so much powerful things. So I think it's totally like women, it's just such an important activity for women to be in.
All right. So I have a question for Dani. So what are some things that you would tell a younger girl considering going into speech and debate?
Okay, so I would tell them to be strong and don't make yourself smaller to make someone else comfortable. Be who you are, do what you do. If you get ranked lower because of that, so be it. You're being who you are and speaking your truth, especially like with topics. I've experienced this so much, just talking about certain things, you can get scored like so much lower just because of judges' preference, and it sucks. And you should be true to yourself and speak what you want to speak, and just be strong and listen to others and express your opinion, and just overall just don't minimize yourself for someone else. Be strong, advocate for yourself, and just do what you want to do.
I have a question for Carly too. This is a tough one. Should the NSDA do more to address concerns about inequality in speech and debate? And like, what about Wyoming? What should Wyoming do? Is there more that they can do as well?
You know, I feel like NSDA has done a lot to promote diversity within our community, and that's something I love about speech, is that when you go to the final stages, you see a lot of people of color and people in the LGBT community being accepted, and that's very encouraging to see. But then again, you see things like the extemp stage, where there was only one woman out of 14 people, and that's discouraging. And I feel like we need to incentivize more to our coaches and more to our competitors that bias that exists. And we've talked about this earlier. It's just a matter of educating yourself. And I know that there's books and there's lessons taught to coaches before they go into this field about what they can do and how they can improve their competitors. And it starts with them, and it starts with the people that they encourage to judge. It's how you can educate and how you can incentivize more of a neutral stance when you look at a woman and a man and how their interpretations primarily are, because it's not about gender. It's about how they deliver their pieces, and it's about what interpretation they got from this and how they're expressing their voice.
I have one more question for Faith, and then I'm going to have like a lightning round and just going to have a wrap up. But Faith, what are some ideas that you have for making the activity a little bit more inclusive, a little bit more equal?
Honestly, there's quite a few ideas that I would have for this, and one of the main ones is making sure we have more female representation, especially in our judging pools, and especially when we see finals rounds when there's 3 judges in them. I feel like a lot of my finals rounds are almost exclusively male judges, and I find that when I have female judges, whether I'm debating a male or a female, I almost always do better. So I feel like diversifying our judging pool more, I know it's hard since we're in small communities, but reaching out to more women and encouraging them to judge and learn more will not only improve the speech and debate community, but it'll also improve the community around us by educating more women on these issues. And then just other ideas is just being willing to call out men on their biases, or call out men on when they're being discriminatory, and calling out other competitors. I feel like as coaches, coaches need to recognize that, maybe she's justified if she calls out a man and seems inappropriate. I think we need to just empower women more and recognize their struggles more and listen to them more.
I think amplifying women's voices are so important, and letting women speak. Because I think Carly mentioned this before, just having males over explain your problems to you or over listen. I think it's just really important to listen to females. And just in our society, it's just people don't do that. So I think just listening is the first step to truly understanding and educating. And I think another really important thing, I think Zoey brought this up earlier, educating judges, saying, hey, this is a problem. Make sure you recognize your own biases and try to not judge because of that.
I just want to quickly add on to that I think if not only with representation, but I think if by we actually taking some sort of action, I'm not exactly sure what that action would be, but I think representation is a great first step. I think it would also encourage people from diverse backgrounds where they don't feel like they're at an inherent disadvantage when they enter, would also increase the amount of inclusivity we have as it is. Not only that, but I think when we advertise speech and debate, we always advertise a very diverse, but I think maybe our target audience to maybe switch sometimes. I'm not exactly sure. I'm obviously not part of the marketing community at NSDA, but I think when we promote speech and debate, we should promote it to several backgrounds. Just go out there and like promote speech and debate just to every single person you know. And I feel like if we get us, like the members of speech and debate, more diverse and we become ourselves more inclusive, even within our own teams and the way we promote it, it would 100% make our advocacy stronger, our representation stronger, and therefore making our call to change and action a lot stronger as well.
Just to piggyback on that, I think that something that's really hard about debate is it's so based in community, right? You only recruit some people, like certain people. You only, like, your judges are community judges. And so I think it's kind of hard to say overall just a blanket statement of what everyone should do. But I totally agree that I think that but just like promoting your team to everyone is really important, because on my team for a little bit, I was like literally the only girl on the team with, I don't know how many other people, probably like 10 other men. And so I think just putting the name out there, because I think a lot of girls are already conditioned from such a young age that their voice doesn't matter and that they would be bad at that. You know, they're too stupid, stuff like that. And so just promoting it and being like, this is for everyone. If you have any interest in it, if you think you could benefit from it, you should join and it will benefit you. I think that just that preconditionedness that every girl kind of has makes them a little less eager to join. And I think it's really important that they understand that this is a community for them too.
Yeah, and adding on to like what Zoe and Camila said about encouraging people to join, I don't know why I just barely thought of this, but something that because we have 2 girl captains again on our team now, and I'm so excited. But something that the other girl captain and I have been working on to implement on our own team is a closet for speech clothes, because we're both very weird sizes. So we've been collecting all of the clothes that like we buy and don't fit us, and then just putting them into a closet. And we're going to advertise this next year to just get more and more, especially women, into the speech community, and showing that, you know, your appearance doesn't necessarily have to be a barrier. Like, you can borrow clothes from the team, because I feel like appearance and just socioeconomic class are huge barriers towards joining speech and debate. So something that I would definitely recommend implementing on teams and stuff, and implementing in the community in general, is closets, so that, you know, women and people of like lower socioeconomic backgrounds can access this clothing and access these events.
I 100% support that. Dani can support me on this. Our own team has that. And I remember joining, and it started our freshman year. And I remember thinking it was such a great thing and like project to start. And I think you guys doing that and starting that is so great for people and just all members of Speech and Debate, because you'd be surprised how much that affects how many people join. Because many people are like, oh, I don't have, you know, the nice slacks to go with this, or I don't see myself as a speech and debater and whatnot. And so I think that is such a great idea, and it 100% works.
I 100% agree with what all of you are saying. What I can gather from this is that physical representations of what we're feeling is a very good way to incentivize equality within our community, like the closet. And, you know, it could be cool to see movements within our speech and debate community, like, you know, how people come together and they silently protest by wearing a certain like clothing or wearing a certain color. Maybe we could incentivize that within our community for one meet wearing a certain color to show that women don't necessarily need to have all of these expectations put upon them, like wearing our hair down, or being inclusive to men and saying that you could wear this certain color and we could all come together and spread awareness about this.
So this has been a really fabulous discussion. I just want to give you all a chance to sort of put in just one last statement from your perspective, just kind of a lightning round kind of question. So we'll just kind of round robin it and let everyone have a chance to speak. But what's one thing that you hope that the audience is going to take away from our discussion today?
I think just it's important for people to understand that you are seen and you are heard and you are valid within the community. I hadn't really talked to anyone before about this issue, anyone on this like panel about this issue, but just coming together and understanding that we've all had very similar experiences shows that you are not alone in your experiences, and it's important to reach out to people that you trust if you think that something is, if something is unfair, because that's the only way that we can make the community better.
My main piece of advice would be listen to what we have to say, and then just actually hear our concerns. So I think that's probably the most important part of all of this. That the main complaint we all have is that people don't actually take us seriously. So if you're going to take anything away from anything that we've talked about, is just listen to your teammates, listen to your female competitors, because what they're saying is true, and even though you may not experience it, it is 100% real. All we want is to be heard.
What I would say, I think, is the best way to combat sexism and misogyny in speech and debate is listening and reevaluating. Just listening to the female experience and what biases occur in debate, and then reevaluating and thinking about what your thought process is while judging around and trying to get rid of all the biases that you have personally. I just think reevaluation and just holding yourself accountable is so important, and everyone needs to do that, male, female, whatever. Everyone needs to hold themselves accountable to be unbiased.
I think accountability is one of the most important things that you can do. And to the audience listening to this, I hope whatever competitor or coach or judge or just listener becomes aware of their internalized biases, and that delivery should not rely on dominance of your voice or how aggressive you are, but it should rely on the performer's interpretation on their piece and what messages they are offering to you.
Yeah, if I were to just wrap this entire discussion up into one thing, it would just be, like, to the women listening, like, be willing to speak up and be willing to fight for, this equality and fight for getting equal representation and actually being listened to, and just, like, know that even if you're just continuing to do a piece, even if you don't like it, or even if you're just debating in general, you're doing something for women, and you should be proud of yourself because you're fighting an uphill battle. And especially towards women that are being successful, like, just know that you should be proud of yourself and to keep fighting no matter what.
I just want to thank you all so much for your involvement in this really important discussion. Your choice to share your experiences and your thoughts on equality in speech and debate is courageous, and it's necessary. And I just hope that our discussion can help, spark some more discussion and help people speak out and advocate for changes in our community that are going to amplify all the voices in the speech and debate world. Thank you once again so very much to our panel members for their thoughtful responses in part 2 of our discussion. Again, I will link to part 1 in the show notes. Don't miss it. There's a lot for all of us in the coaching and competitive community to thoughtfully consider as we strive for equality in the speech and debate world. Be sure to check out additional links and resources, as well as a full transcript of this discussion on the website, oneclapspeechanddebate.com. Our upcoming episode is going to feature an interview with acclaimed director Lucia Small, who came on the podcast to discuss her new documentary, Girl Talk, a film that was 8 years in the making. It follows the high school careers of girl debaters. This is an excellent film that you're not going to want to miss, and my interview with Lucia was enlightening and fun, so don't miss it. Be on the lookout for these upcoming episodes too. Ella Schnacke talks about women in speech and debate and her 2019 NSDA Championship POI Debate Like a Girl. Riverton competitor Carly Benn-Thornton talks about the importance of humor and her semifinalist run at NSDA Nationals this summer. Our second panel, made up of Yu Yuen, Haley Lauze-Reyes, and Layla Sainlin, considers being a racial minority and a woman in speech and debate. And a Toronto County High School superstar and 2022 Wyoming High School Forensics Ambassador Zoey Pickett stops by to discuss extemporaneous speaking and female leadership. And we have more coming up too, including some additional panel discussions. If you'd like to join the discussion here at One Clap Speech and Debate, shoot me an email at lylewiley@gmail.com or reach out on the One Clap Speech and Debate podcast website or social media, which I'll link in the show notes. Be sure to check out our new YouTube and TikTok channels. These will be linked in the show notes as well. Be sure to follow those pages. And, this year, if you want to try to support One Clap Speech and Debate, check out our Patreon page, also linked in the show notes. You can partner with me on this journey for as little as $1 a month and stop patronage anytime you'd like. Special thanks to all of our patrons, Terry, Tina, Brenda, Aaron T., Melissa, Marcus, Laura, Londi, Ashley S., Joel, Matt, Alan, Ashley M, Aaron, L, Izzy, and also Rick. Thank you all for your support. And thank you for listening to One Clap Speech and Debate. Remember, your voice matters. We'll catch you next time.